Let's go live to the Prime Minister now. Anthony Albanese joins us from Brisbane. Prime Minister, thank you for your time. In broad terms, do you see this plan,
Kieran.
the Future Made in Australia, is this your plan to underpin what you hope is a second-term agenda?
It certainly will be a part of an ongoing Labor government agenda, but it's an agenda for the nation, not just for an election. This is something that does need to happen. It's not about the old protectionism. This is about the new competition. And Australia must be in it to win it. There's a race for opportunity, a race for jobs on, and Australia must be in it to win it. We must participate because the alternative, given what is occurring in the United States with the Inflation Reduction Act, with similar legislation in Japan, in Korea, in Canada, in Europe, is that the world will just go past us. But if we seize the opportunities which are there, we can make more things here in Australia. We can prosper as an economy, particularly here in Queensland and in the regions.
It's bringing together a number of announcements already made or programs already up and running, like the National Reconstruction Fund, like the Solar Sunshot program. I'm guessing there will be more significant announcements in the budget under the umbrella of the Future Made in Australia. You seem to be hinting batteries will be one of those. Is that what you're thinking, particularly given our competitive advantage when it comes to critical minerals?
Well, we have everything that goes into a battery for storage and to power this century. We have copper, we have lithium, we have nickel, we have all of these products. And one of the things that's happening, Kieran, that is making Australia more competitive is that the nature of production is changing. Labour is less as a proportion of the costs of production. And we saw in the 70s and 80s manufacturing, a lot of it leave Australia because of cheaper labour costs in the region. What's driving change now, because technology is ubiquitous, it's available everywhere, is innovation and is comparative advantage. Now, here in Australia, we have massive advantages under the ground with our resources, but also in the sky with our solar resources. That will enable us to develop a green hydrogen industry, for example, that can then be used to drive green metals manufacturing in areas like aluminium and steel. We have enormous opportunity here to value add. And the theme today is pretty simple, which is we'll continue to be an exporting nation, we'll continue to export our resources, but where possible, value add here, create jobs here, create value here, create that economic prosperity here. That is what we need to do, and we need to seize the opportunities that are right before us.
When you talk about, though, just to pick up something there, you mentioned labour is less as a percentage in terms of the overall production. So where do the green jobs fit in here?
Green jobs certainly fit in with the creation of new industries and old industries transforming so that they're more sustainable, so they're more competitive with what the demands will be in coming decades. So areas like steel manufacturing in Whyalla, aluminium manufacturing in Gladstone, making sure that we value add wherever we can so that industries are transformed, but also new industries emerge, like in battery manufacturing. We were at Liddell just a couple of weeks ago, and there the prospects of solar manufacturing using the most advanced manufacturing for solar panels that will be the most efficient in the world, being produced there in the Upper Hunter, employing more people than were employed at the former Liddell Power Station all those years ago before it closed. Now, we can shut our eyes to what's going on in the world and do what the former government did. They used to stand up in question time and speak about keeping Liddell open. Of course, it shut on their watch. It didn't have a future. It reached the end of its life. The question is, how do we use that facility, that capacity, that workforce as well that we have? one of the things I speak about today is the advantages that we have with our population. We have a great university sector that's been terrific at innovation. How do we commercialise those opportunities that come out of that research and the capacity of our intellectual strength that comes out of universities? How do we train people through TAFE? Has been a big concentration of my government as well, identifying what are the skills that we will need in 5, 10 years' time, and how do we train Australians up for them? And that's why we've created Jobs and Skills Australia to give us that advice.
Yeah. But that automisation that you're talking about that makes us competitive, that won't preclude, that won't block the creation of jobs. That's what you're saying.
Not at all. What it will mean is that compared with older manufacturing processes, there'll be less jobs created per output. But what you're comparing it with here isn't an old form of manufacturing or a new, more efficient, more productive form. It's whether we produce that new productive form of manufacturing here in Australia or it's offshore. It's as simple as that, not just in our region to our north, but also in places like the United States of America through its Inflation Reduction Act. Because the other thing that today's speech is about is the link between economic security and national security. One of the lessons of the pandemic is that economies need to be more resilient. They need to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, if you like, in simple terms. And that is one of the things that we learnt from the pandemic. We're making sure that that happens. Other countries are doing exactly the same thing. So whether it's working with the United States and other advanced economies, or working as well through the work that Nicholas Moore did with the Southeast Asia Economic Strategy to 2040 that we advanced as well at the ASEAN Summit that was held in Melbourne just last month. How do we work with those growing economies to our north? We have a range of advantages. What's in our resources sector, our human advantages that we have, including our multicultural society with links to every country on the globe, or whether it be the fact that we're located in the region of the world that's the fastest growing in history, provides us with enormous opportunities. You're going to have substantial growth in markets. You're going to have substantial growth in use of new technologies. We need to be a part of this. We need to be in it to win it, rather than observers watching the world just go past us.
You have mentioned today and previously, I know when you announced the Solar Sunshot, pointing this lack of commercialisation, that as a nation we come up with great ideas. We're great innovators, but haven't commercialised. And I guess you look at this massive financial system we've got in this country, massive banks, superannuation, trillions of dollars, but often the investment goes to major corporations, not to those SMEs that are the innovators. Is this trying to fill that gap from the government?
It is. It's about, look, we recognise that the drivers of this growth will be the private sector. But sometimes what they need is support in the initial stages for a new startup with a new idea to commercialise those opportunities. And certainly it is the case that Australia has been amazing at innovation, everything from the black box to Wi-Fi to, of course, solar panels. Every solar panel in the world will have some intellectual property produced usually at the Australian National University or the University of New South Wales, but Australia was ahead of the world in PV solar. We didn't commercialise those opportunities. We actually lost that industry. Now, what this is about is how do we provide an environment where companies don't just have the good ideas and the good startups here before moving offshore. How do we keep them here in Australia? And we'll see with use of new technologies, including artificial intelligence, all of the pace of change is getting faster and faster. How do we make sure that we can participate in that Australia gets the economic benefit from that innovation. Rather than having these great ideas, we export our resources, we wait for someone else to value add, and then we import them back at high cost. That makes no sense, just as it didn't make any sense for us to allow the car industry, or in the case of the former government, they encouraged it to leave. And that had a flow-on impact in complex manufacturing in particular. One of the industries that are going to be important, of course, is our defence industry as well, but also agriculture and food. How do we increase yields? How do we increase productivity? All of these things provide opportunities for a future made in Australia to be one where we continue to see our living standards increase, where we continue to see good, secure, high-paid jobs being available in this country and growing into the future, particularly in our regions.